in, Government of India has appointed Lt General retired Anil Chauhan as the next Chief of Defence Staff, who will also function as the Secretary to the Government of India Department of Military Affairs. So that's the latest we are getting here. New appointment to the post of the Chief of Defence Staff. In a statement, the Ministry of Defence has confirmed that retired Lt General Anil Chauhan will be India's Chief of Defence Staff. Srinjoy Chaudhary joining us with more. Srinjoy, over to you for more details on this, please.
Well, Lieutenant General Anil Chauhan has been a contender for a while. His name has been doing the rounds for a long time, and rightly too, because he has been seen as an officer who has the ability and the capability to be CDS, to be able to bring the Army, Navy, and Air Force together. And he has the right experience. He has been DGMO, where he has been in touch with his colleagues in the Air Force and Navy. He has been Eastern Army Commander, which basically looks after China. And importantly, he is or has been till just now the military advisor to the National Security Advisor Ajit Doval. So even though he has been retired, it does not mean he is out of government. He has been in government. He continues to be in government as a very important military advisor to Ajit Doval, the National Security Advisor. This was widely expected. It was widely believed that Mr. General Chauhan would be the next CDS. It was a question of when the government would make the announcement. And the government in its believes that this is the right time to do it. So Anil Chauhan will be the next CDS. He will have 3 years. He will have a lot on his hands because all these issues of ensuring that the armed forces become more closer to each other in terms of operational preparedness and all that, the fact that there will be major changes that Bipin Rawat, the first CDS, the late Bipin Rawat was working on, yes, they will have to, and it's particularly important that there is more effort to make sure that the three forces work together. That was exactly what General Rawat was planning to do, and that is something that General Chauhan will certainly manage to do. And he is an experienced officer, a well-deserving choice to be Chief of Defence Staff.
Right. Srinjoy, thanks very much for giving us that update. This is important information we're sharing with our viewers right now, as Srinjoy was giving us the details of Lt General Anil Chauhan, who's now appointed the next Chief of Defence Staff. He has a career spanning over 40 years. Lt General Anil Chauhan had held several command, staff and instrumental appointments and had extensive experience in counter-insurgency operations in Jammu and Kashmir as well as in the Northeast. What Srinjoy was also telling us that he was, in fact, in charge of the Director General of Military Operations, and he has served as in the United Nations as well, in the UN mission to Angola. He has wide level of experience and exposure, owing to which, as Srinjoy was pointing out, he was probably the most appropriate choice for the position of CDS. Let me go across to Maruf Raza joining us live. Maruf, good evening. Tell us more about this appointment. As you would know, the fact that Lt General Anil Chauhan's name was very much doing the rounds. It seems this was widely expected as well. Your thoughts, please.
See, General Anil Chauhan is an outstanding officer. I have met him a couple of times when we were young officers in the Army. I've also been in touch with his rising career profile. There are many commonalities between him and General Bipin Rawat. They are from the same regiment, that's 11 Gurkhas. And in the Army, your regiment is like a tribe. So they eventually shapes a certain amount of your professional responses and your professional connections. The second thing is he's commanded Eastern Command and 3 Corps. So he has a lot of experience on India's Eastern Front, which is very important, though all our attention on China is on the LAC and the Northern Front. China is equally a large elephant in the room on the Eastern Front. The third thing is, after retirement, he was co-opted into the Secretariat of the National Security Advisor, Mr. Doval. So he has worked very closely with the NSA, and that is a kind of chemistry that was required for a CDS to have, either already established chemistry or to build the same with the National Security Advisor once he comes into the job. General Rawat had a good equation with the CDS because with the NSA, because he had also served very closely with Mr. Doval in the raids, particularly which took place in Myanmar after the ambush of Indian soldiers in the east, when Rawat was commanding 3 corps, which even General Chauhan has commanded. A corps is the kind of troop numbers that are deployed against the Chinese on the LAC now, about 40 to 60,000 troops. Also, General Chauhan has a job ahead of him, which is more or less clearly spelled out. It is to finish the agenda that General Bipin Rawat had embarked on, particularly with reference to the reorganization of India's armed forces into theater commands. Some announcements have been made of that, but not enough. There is a lot of work to be done there. Also, he is in principle, from his date of commission, senior to the current army chief. And I think the same applies with the Navy and the air chiefs also. So in the pecking order, he's actually senior to them. And therefore, there should not be a clash in terms of seniority, because the CDS is going to head the 3 services chiefs team, which is called the Chiefs of Staff Committee, and the CDS is the permanent head of that. And also, he is connected with the Ministry of Defense, because he has a DMA, that is Department of Military Affairs, which has been set up, and the bureaucrats have been trying to whittle it down. But he'll have to fight back and take his space from where General Bipin Rawat had left it. And that is very important in terms of various administrative aspects, the financial issues connected with the armed forces, and the equipment purchases that the armed forces have to embark upon. The CDS is going to be and has to be the coordinating authority for that.
Yes.
The operational roles of the armed forces, there is still not enough clarity that who will really command the armed forces in the event of a war. In all other armies of the world, like the United States and Britain, the CDS is in charge operationally of that. But in those countries, you don't have a bureaucracy as powerfully entrenched as India's.
Yes.
So therefore, the role of the CDS will have to be further clarified and put into place. It was agreed when they finally went in for the appointment. A very senior officer who was in contention for the post told me that it was to be 2-2-1-1. That means there would be 2 military officers of the army, followed by 1 from the Air Force or Navy. So while I'm sure the Air Force would be peeved that this appointment has not gone to an Air Force officer, but really at that stage and at that seniority, people understand what are the politics and, dynamics of these appointments.
Yes,
And
but net,
enough-
Maruf, like you pointed out so correctly, that this is such a significant appointment, a significant post rather, when it comes to acting as a force that would coordinate, as a position that would coordinate between the Ministry of Defense and the armed forces, all the 3 services of Army, Navy and Air Force. Thanks very much, Maruf. Appreciate your joining us this evening.